We're here today with Chris Caton, the Chief Economist from BT. We're very lucky to have him in our office to ask some questions about his views of the economy.
In February of this year, the Reserve Bank made it pretty clear they don't want to cut rates anymore. Not just because you can't get any decent yield, but because they think lower rates would eventually do the economy more harm than good via speculative lending, potential house price increases, etc. The Reserve Bank has four concerns right now. There is overall inflation, which has clearly picked up in the past year. That, if anything, argues not to cut rates again. There is the house price issue, which is a little double-edged at the moment, but essentially, while the Reserve Bank does not believe house prices are in a bubble, and I agree with them, they also don't think it would be helpful for price rises of 10% more in the next year. Now, nationally, house prices have done more than 10% in the most recent year. That may come as news to a lot of people in Adelaide. The third thing the Reserve Bank is concerned about is the exchange rate. They would desperately want the exchange rate lower. That's actually an argument against raising rates in the near term, because raising rates, all other things being equal, would tend to push the exchange rate up. And the fourth thing, and perhaps the most important thing they're concerned about, is the labour market. Employment growth in Australia in the past 12 months has been pretty poor, although in the past 3 months it has looked better. Incidentally, I think in South Australia, the employment story over the past year has been worse than in any other state. The unemployment rate, certainly higher than it was a year or so ago, but in the most recent piece of data, did actually blip down and may have stopped going up. But if employment continues to languish, and if the unemployment rate turns around and heads for the mid-sixes, and it's 5.8 as I speak, then yes, it's possible you'll get another rate cut. But I put all those things together, plus a view that interest rates as low as they are is unsustainable in the medium term, and my suspicion is before the end of the year, the Reserve Bank will be pushing up the cash rate, which means term deposit rates and just all deposit interest rates will tend to lift. Well, there is no question that since mid-2012, when amongst other things we were so worried about Greece and European debt more particularly, there is no question since then the Australian share market has gone from clearly, demonstrably cheap, and cheap because we were scared, to somewhere close to fair value. If you look at the long history of where the market has priced in relation to the earnings that companies are making, we're very, very close to the long run average right now. That says that essentially you can really only rely on getting significant gains from now on if we can get significant earnings growth. And I think that can be, well, we can certainly get some earnings growth. The Australian economy should eventually pick up in growth over the course of the rest of this year and going into next year. And although it's true that all other things being equal, rising rates don't help earnings, the rates aren't going to go up unless the Reserve Bank's fairly convinced that economic growth is on an okay path. So you take all of those things into account, I think it probably is true, almost certainly is true, that gains in the share market from now on are going to be significantly less than they have been in the past, let's say, 21 months.